and T. Why are we where we are, and how can we move
No,
on?
see, Nigeria has 170 million people officially, which means it has 2.58% of the world's population, but produces only 0.6% of the world output. So what you have are extreme, you have a lot of people, unproductive, constrained, but it's a natural wealth economy. Even if you killed all the Nigerians, this economy will grow at 4% anyway, because the oil is coming out of the ground. It is not as a result of any productivity or any genius. So the shift from a natural wealth economy to a produced wealth economy, which is what it should be, will unlock the energy and the potential of Nigerians. And this disequilibrium you have by distortions to resource allocation, by subsidies in the exchange rate, subsidies in petroleum, subsidies in deposits in the banking system and all that, all those subsidies have to disappear. It's an inefficient way of allocating resources. Once resources are allocated efficiently, then you create a safety net and a trap for the underprivileged. And that's why you have all of these things. Each of these people, if you look at Lagos State education results, you find that they've got 29% score in mathematics, English, and all of that. But the bulk of the children who passed very well were in the private schools, where they're paying very high fees. If you were to improve the quality of education, people will spend less on this private education, and they'll have more to buy goods and consumer goods, which will make companies employ more people. And you are going to see all of this happen very shortly.
What should be the biggest concern for the government? I'm sorry. What should be the biggest immediate concern for the incoming administration to try to get the economy on a fast lane to growth?
First of all, you've got to pay all the debts outstanding. There's no way that a country like this...
We're going to have to pay the 60 billion.
No, not the 60 billion. There's nothing wrong. Do you want to know the U.S. national debt? U.S. national debt is about 140% of the GDP.
I'm only curious because you said we have to pay the
debt. No,
debt.
Pay off salary arrears. You have workers who have not been paid their salaries for 5, 6, 7, some of them 8 months. There are states that are claiming that they are oil rich that have not paid salaries. So first of all, you've got to settle all the salary arrears. You've got to settle the joint venture cash call arrears. You've got to settle all those contractors arrears. You've got to bail out the states that cannot meet their obligations. Then you would then, from the from the subsidies that have been taken out, you will now be able to to reimburse those states and make them, so you first and foremost fill the fiscal gap, that is pay off all the debts. Then you begin to reflate the economy by actually spending on infrastructure aggressively across all segments: transport infrastructure, rail infrastructure, power, and refineries, and all that.
So much.
No, but you have to do it.
Well, Mr. Rewane, will it be possible, I mean, is it even remotely possible to break the stranglehold of the cabals, who run the oil industry and, of course, the power sector, because these are the problem areas? I mean, somebody must be benefiting from this bad power situation. Somebody must be benefiting, and it appears these are very influential people.
If you take out the subsidy today, that cabal will fall apart in 5 seconds. That cabal cannot last 5 minutes after the subsidies have been removed.
What about
in any case, they will go and they can produce, they can buy refineries, they can do anything. But this country cannot be held with a bullet to its head permanently, especially now that the price of oil and our revenues have dropped by over 50%.
What about the power sector?
Well, the power sector is also tied to gas and all of that. And I think that first step of privatization was good, but now it's time to invest in that sector. Those guys who bought the assets need to invest behind it and need to reform that whole sector. Just as you can make money, you can lose money. If they are losing money, some other guys will revoke those transactions and give it to those who have the capacity to actually deliver, because there's money. Everybody, half of the people queuing up for petrol are queuing to put it in their generators. Some are queuing to buy diesel to put in their generators. That is totally inefficient.
What would you advise to be the structure now that you've talked about expanding or getting investors into the power sector? What should be the structure this time?
No, first of all, you privatize the entire thing.
Including transmission?
Transmission, right? Because it needs significant amount of investment and know-how. So the investment, the expertise, and then the incentives. The tariff structure should be such that it is profitable to invest in it. Nobody is going to run a power transaction, like a charity. First of all, there's lost power. Then there's stolen power. And then what is being sold is actually only about 20% of the power that is being generated. You cannot, there's no business that can survive selling only 20% and losing 80% of its
What will be the government's role then, if we have to go this path that you've just mentioned? What will be the government's role in trying to say, for example, instead of using turbines, we're using solar energy, we're using wind energy, and moving away from gas?
The government creates incentives. But more than anything else, if people go and vandalize cables and all of that, government should provide security so that those who have invested in those cables don't lose it. Okay. If there are crooks who are tapping into wires, the police should be able to arrest them. So that Nigeria is not different from any other country.
Do you believe we can have light in 6 months?
No. You are at 3,500 megawatts. Your requirements are about 100,000 megawatts.
It makes sense, because if we move to wind energy and solar energy, we can have light in 6 months.
Those things are not going to happen in 6 months.
It might also make sense that we'll go on break at this point in time. Okay. We'll take a break and we'll come back shortly. Please don't go away.
One major, very crucial and critical thing is to bring down the cost of governance immediately. The public service, public officers, particularly in the category of National Assembly members and ministers, are earning outrageous and I would say uncivilized sums of money, shameless sums of money. People who have calculated it, although the legislators have refused to give their official income, I'm not talking of salaries, which they always parade, total earnings. Those who have calculated it are giving us a figure of something like 29 million a month per senator right now. That's some of the things trending that we are checking. And ministers are about the same thing. Not only that, you have various other public officers of different categories carrying away allowances in millions and millions. The result of all that is that our capital budget is about 20%, and recurrent is about 80%. The consequence of that is obvious, it's devastating. It means you cannot develop.
Work here to bring in one more person, an economist as well. Mr. Tilewa Adebajo joins us. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, thank you.
I'm sure you heard a bit of the conversation we were having with Mr. Rewane. Okay, not a bit, you heard quite a lot. That's a good one. Okay, Mr. Rewane, before we go to Mr. Adebajo, you said something about the debt level, $60 billion. Now, it sounded like you said, don't bother about the death. Yes. Look at alternatives. Let's take care of issues before we even begin to look at how to take care of the debt. Yes. A lot of Nigerians out there, when they hear, what? We're owing 60 billion. You mean that's how many trillions of naira?
And there's an estimate that it will take 233 years to pay that.
No, but that's fine. 12% of your GDP is nothing. Other countries are borrowing 100% of their GDP, 60% of GDP. It is what you have used the debt. The debt is on the liability side of your balance sheet. The assets you should see are bridges, roads, power stations, ports, airports, and all of that. You don't have that. What you have is debt, and what you have done with it is you have consumed. You've used it to buy kerosene and petrol, and the rest has been stolen. And that's why I call it, you see, the country has been raped permanently for the past.
Do you support the probe of this government, of the Goodluck Jonathan administration?
No, see, my view about probes are that maybe they are necessary, but you spend all your time looking backwards. What the challenge today is to grow yourself out of this downturn and to make your economy competitive so that you have investments, both domestic and international.
But tying into the question he has just asked, I mean, okay, we can take care of the